Thank you for stopping by Jetersblessings, where I hope my crafting inspires you to craft. Please like, subscribe, and comment below. Today I'm going to start off with this work rail, Chenille stems. I have some 10-inch Deco mesh from Hobby Lobby, some 21-inch Deco mesh, and some scissors, a couple of rolls of ribbon from Dollar Tree. And this roll I got from Michael's a couple years ago on the after Christmas clearance. This roll of ribbon I got from Hobby Lobby this year as well, with the 40% off when it was on sale. Now all I'm going to do is take this bare work rail and actually add the chenille stems to be able to attach our deco mesh and our ribbon, much like we would create our own wreath when we put our own chenille stems on. All I'm doing is twisting them across the bars and then giving it a good couple of twists to keep it in place. I'll attach them to each end of the bars and also to each four corners. So here I'm taking this 21-inch deco mesh, gathering it at the end, and then I'm going to measure out 6 inches. I'm going to start by putting that in the first corner of our work rail. And all I'm going to do is just give it a good couple of twists with my chenille stem. Now from that chenille stem, I'll measure out 10 inches on my painter's stick. And then after each chenille stem has been placed into the next chenille stem, I measure out another 10 inches for the poofs. You can go ahead and fluff out your deco mesh at this time if you want, or if you want to do it later when you have everything settled in, then that's fine too. But I will add all these at the very end of each chenille stem, and then when I get to the end of this one side, after I put the poof in the corner, I'll just measure 6 inches and cut that off, and then I'll start again on the next side to cover it just the same as I did this side. And this is what it'll look like. So I had these 10-inch deco meshes already pre-cut into 10 inches, and here I'm just doing the ruffle method, making sure the curl side is down and walking my fingers up through the middle. It's very easy to do. Then I'll just take each ruffle and we'll add them to each of the chenille stems. Now I don't open my chenille stems and then put the ruffle in. I just go ahead and put it right on top. So this is what it looks like after you add a 10-inch deco mesh square to each side. Here I am taking my pre-cut 14-inch ribbon from the Dollar Tree. I've already went ahead and dovetailed it, and later in the video I'll show you how to dovetail. Now all I do is fold it to get it in the middle, pinch it, and then I run my fingers through the bottom side of the ribbon to give it that curled look. Now you don't have to do it before you put it in the chenille stem. You can actually do it afterwards, but for me it's easier to do so. Sometimes I still forget, and then I go back in after I've had to put my ribbon in, and then I curl it with my hand. But you'll go ahead and add a set of ribbon to each chenille stem. Now this is what it looks like. And then this is a fall cross made from leaves that I got at Hobby Lobby on their 75% clearance a couple years ago. It was different colors, more of the classic colors that you see on the wreath, but I went ahead and spray painted it gold. Now I'm taking that small ribbon that I got from the Hobby Lobby, and I'm going to make a really simple bow. And for me, this is one of the easiest, instead of having to make the top bow and then to go ahead and cut that off and then cut another piece for your tails. I just go ahead and make the top bow, and then I'll loop the ribbon up under it, and then once I've got it with the chenille stem to hold it in place, I go back and then cut it in the middle of that bigger loop, and that gives me my 2 tails. Now on the really smaller diameter, the smaller size ribbon, I don't really dovetail those. I like to just cut those at an angle. So all I did was attach the bow here just to add a little bit of decorative piece to it. And you'll see that I'm really just playing with the ends and trying to figure out how long I want them, and I cut them at a slant. Now you'll see I messed up and cut one side wrong, and I had to go back and recut it the other way. Now once I've got it on here, I'm about to take a chenille stem and place it in the cross that will allow me to attach the cross to the swag. Now I'm just going to play with it for a little bit just to figure out where I want it, and you'll actually see that right now that I put the cross on the top, and then I will create a bow, which I will show you how to make, but I didn't really like it. So you'll see later where I've actually painted the cross again. I've added some paint that I had on hand because I didn't think it popped enough. And then I didn't really like the placement of the bow. So you'll see in just a bit how it ended up being when I made the changes to the swag. So here I decided that I needed another piece of chenille stem to hold the bottom portion. That way it would hold in place. If I wanted to hang this outside, maybe, it would stay on better and stuff. And then I'm just fluffing out my bows. Not my bows, I'm sorry, my tails. I love to fluff those out as I go. I probably fluff them out way too much, but I tend to try to be perfect on them. So now I'm just taking my 2 ribbons from the Dollar Tree and then the gold ribbon that I got from Michael's, and I'm about to make a bow. This is a very simple way to make a bow. I don't know who actually started this bow. I have seen this on many channels. But it is a really easy way to make a bow, and especially if you're going to utilize multiple bows and if you don't have a bow maker. But I personally don't want to spend the money on a bow maker if I can do it a simpler way. Now all I do is I measure out where I wanted each of the sides to be 7 inches, so a total of about 14 inches, and then I wrapped the ribbon on itself to make sure I wrapped each end 3 times. And once I do that, I cut it, and I make sure I cut it where there's more ribbon more than halfway. That way, when you go to put it in the chenille stem and start manipulating it, then your ribbon won't fall out. So then I take the rest of my ribbon that's on the 2 spools from the Dollar Tree, and I get them together and I measure out approximately the same with the gold. Now you'll see that I kind of go back and forth to the 2 different ends, and that's because I'm paranoid that my ends have gotten off and they're not at the same length. I've actually done that one time and I was out of the ribbon that I messed up on, but luckily I was still able to save it. So that's why I tend to measure a couple of times before I actually cut. So here I am cutting this even, and I fold it in half as I did with the other portion of the ribbon. And what I do is I like to cut mine about a 1/2 inch in on each side. And the reason I do that is because it allows me to really manipulate the bow when I'm trying to fluff it out. Now I've seen other people where they do it like a really small piece, like maybe less than half an inch, and it doesn't seem like they get to manipulate the bow as much as I like to. I'm pretty rough with my bows, but that's fine because they can really withstand it. And so I just make sure that I have enough room to where I can manipulate my bow and get them in the right place. So I add all my bow parts together, and then I attach it with the Chenille stem on one of the rails for the swag, and then I'll just begin fluffing out my bow. This is one of my favorite parts because I love to see how it becomes so full and how everything blends together in a bow, and it just seems to make things look so much better if you have a nice bow on things. And I'm a pretty simple person, so a lot of my wreaths and my bows a lot of my wreaths and my swags don't have a lot of stuff on them. But I definitely have a bow, and like I said, I definitely think bows make a huge difference. You can see how big this looks in full, and that was just one half of the bow fluffed out. So here we are about to fluff out the other end, and you'll get to see how beautiful it is. As you can see, I'm pretty rough with my bows, moving them up and down and moving them around, making sure they're all in a nice big bubble. So once I've done that, then I really just take my tails and I measure them out, and I kind of look to see where I want to cut, how long I want them, and to cut them. So this here is dovetailing. If you don't know already, you just fold the ribbon long length, and then you cut upward, and that gives you your little dovetails. Now, I don't necessarily like to have all my tails cut at the same length. I typically like my tails in the front, like the truck is in the front, then I typically like those a little bit smaller and kind of like having a waterfall effect. So here's the new look of how I changed it. Now I used fog gray, and it was from Michaels, and all I did was I dabbed it on, and then I swapped the cross from the top to the bottom, and then I put the bow on the top. So as you can see here, I'm making these little curly cues. I have a pin with my Chenille stems that are still sticking out from the ribbon, and I'm just curling them over the pin. That way it gives a little curly cue effect. Now you don't have to do that if you don't want to. You could always tuck your Chenille stems up underneath, and that way you don't really see them. But I think sometimes it gives it a nice pop of color, and that's why I chose the green. So here is the completed look. As you can see, I cut the tails a little bit shorter because it was in the way of the cross, but this is how it looks. I hope you guys like it, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave me any comments, and thank you for your time.